Good morning. So we're starting a new unit this week. It's called South Asia in your book. It's basically India and the surrounding countries that kind of touch India. Um, I'll tell you what more of those are here in just a couple minutes, but that's where we're starting now. So this week, gonna post this vocab. It's due Friday. We'll have a vocab quiz on Friday as well. So this will be posted here in a couple minutes um, after you get done watching these notes. And today, you don't have a quiz or anything today. You just have this chart. We're going over section one, landforms and resources. We'll start. It's the physical geography chart. So landforms and resources is always section one. So you're going to fill out this chart as you watch through the notes or as you read through the notes. You'll fill out this chart to that's your assignment for today. The good thing is for you is that I've underlined where some of the things go. So when you see in your notes a country underlined, when you see a country underlined in your notes, then that means that's where I want you to put. So the Himalayas will be in Nepal and Bhutan. And those are together because they're kind of almost the same thing. We'll go over this all in a second. Okay. So when you see something underlined, that's the country that it goes into. When you see a country underlined. So I've kind of made that a little easy on you. So just fill this out. Some of these charts will be blank. Or some of these things will be blank. So that's okay. I know that some of these will be blank because in some of these places there's not going to be mountains or bodies of water that are inside that country. Okay, so some of these will be blank, and I'm okay with that. And then once you get done, you should have a turn in button right here. Once you get done, just click turn in, and that's all you got to do for today. So let's look at your notes very quickly. We're not going to watch a lot of these videos, but I do want to show you at the very beginning of this video South Asia. Once again, this is chapter 24, the physical geography chart or place. So next section one's landforms and resources. This video is these guys. As you can see here, this is called the world's most deadliest road. As you can tell, why? Because of the lack of size here. So let me just show you briefly.
Go on, Rob, give us a commentary. We just
these guys are going. I think they're hikers or journalists or something. It doesn't really say what they are, but to get to your mountain climbing experience, wherever these guys are going to mountain climbing at, you have to go on this world's deadliest road. And so you can see these guys. It's pretty much about.
shit. So we've now got to a stage where the roof rat's going to get.
This guy's got to get out, and he's got to go make sure nothing's coming around the corner, and also that they're far enough away from the edge of the mountain, so that way the van doesn't get stuck on this side of the mountain or get pushed by the mountain into over the edge. So this guy's kind of seeing how close they get to the edge. He'll pan down here in just a second. You can see how close the tires are to the edge of the mountain. Right there. They're like a foot away from a straight drop down to the death. But yeah, world's most deadliest mountains. It's a one-lane road, so what happens if you meet another car coming the other direction? Well, one will have to drive in reverse until you get to one of these nearest points where the road's wide enough to fit two cars, which doesn't actually happen till on up here in the video. You'll be able to see here in just a second when it gets around this curve. So if the car met here, the car would have to drive in reverse around this mountain until they got both to this point right. There's a waterfall. So they get both to right up here, right past where this guy's getting in at, where you can fit two cars at. Right up here is wide enough to fit two cars at. So, very dangerous, high mountain range place. So, here's the country, South Asia. India is the big one here. It influences a lot of the areas around here because at one time, most of these countries belonged to the country or empire that was in India at the time. So So India is the biggest influence in there. But let's go through. Okay, South Asia is here. Is what your book calls South Asia. It includes Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka's down here, and so are the Maldives, which are right there. Okay, you can see population facts: 1.5 billion people, largest country in the world. 20% of the world's population live inside this region. A lot of them being in India. Shout out, India has a lot of people. You can see here, a lot of this region has over 520 people per square mile. So that's a ton of people. Um, India is this huge peninsula. Some people even call it its own subcontinent off of China, Asia, because it's separated. You can see here, if y'all remember way back when we did our little experiment of continental drift theory way back at the beginning of school, India is one of those countries that broke off and made its way up, and when it collided here with Asia, it made these huge mountain ranges here, the Himalayas. Okay. So India, largest, most diverse, large population. Pakistan's there on the left side of India. Pakistan's right here. It's very dry, very mountainous. You have the Maldives, which are these about 1,200 tiny little islands that none of them cover more than 5 square miles. So they're a bunch of tiny islands off the bottom left side of India. Then you have Sri Lanka. So here's the Maldives right down here. Here's the Sri Lanka right here. It's got a mountain range in the middle, not very big, just a little mountain range, sometimes called the teardrop of India. Obviously, why? You can see there, it's just a little teardrop there off the edge of India. You got Bangladesh, which is on the right side of India. It's where rivers meet, and it creates this big river delta, the largest in the world. You got Nepal and Bhutan right here. Nepal and Bhutan off the top side of India. It's where most of the Himalayas are. So let's get started. So when you're looking at your chart, right, you want to put the Himalayas in that mountain range for Nepal and Bhutan because that's where they mostly run. System of parallel mountain ranges that extend across southern Asia. And so, like I said, when that Indian continent collided, you can see here, when that Indian continent collided, it pushed up that land, pushed up, and that caused the Himalayas. So you've got a lot of mountain ranges there. Some of the tallest peaks in the world, actually the tallest peak in the world, Mount Everest is there, but also like 12 out of the top 14 tallest mountains or something like that are in the Himalayas. Okay, so you have that here, the Himalayas. And that's Mount Everest there. Here's some facts about Everest. You can watch that if you want to. They do have cell phone service on the top of Mount Everest, so that's cool. You have Mount Everest here. This is called this most of the route most people take when they climb Everest. They go up through this route right here. Sunlight there. There's a monastery there up in the mountains that faces Mount Everest there, and another view of Mount Everest. Okay, then you have the Hindu Kush Mountains. Hindu Kush Mountains are in Pakistan, so in Pakistan on your box, put Hindu Kush Mountains. Hindu Kush Mountains are kind of form a border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which we talked about Afghanistan in the last unit, but it's on the left side of Pakistan there. Then on the very top part of Pakistan, you have this mountain range too, the Karakoram Mountains, and these are in the northern part of Pakistan, and they kind of meet up with the Himalayan mountains. Let's see if I have a better picture for you of the map. Yeah, the Karakoram Mountains, and I'll show you this on a better map here. Just are right up here. You can see them right here. They meet up with meet up with Mount Everest, or the Himalayas right here. And the Hindu Kush Mountains are right here between Afghanistan and Pakistan. All right. The combination of all three of those mountain ranges we talked about made it really hard for armies to come and invade this region of South Asia. So it was really hard to take over India for a long amount of history until like planes were developed because of these mountain ranges kind of protected them. And then you have the Vindhya Mountains. These were in the middle of India, kind of across the center part of India. these mountains create a barrier between the people of the north and the people of the south India. So, in culture-wise, we'll talk about this next week. Really, South India is a lot different culture-wise than North India, but that's where the Vindhya are, right across the middle here. So you have the Himalayas, Nepal and Bhutan in your box. Hindu Kush are right there between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and the Karakoram are right here between, are kind of the northern part of Pakistan. So that's all your mountain ranges. Here's some plateaus you're going to put in. The one, you have these things called the Ghats. So I'd put Ghats and Deccan Plateau. I put the Ghats and Deccan Plateau. Those go in India's box. And these are right here on the bottom part of India. It's got raised on this side, raised on this side, and raised on this side. So this whole area is higher in elevation. You can see here on this elevation map. It's high in elevation, higher than the surrounding areas around it. So it makes it a plateau. And so that plateau blocks some of the moisture. And so this area is a lot drier than other parts of India because these right here, these western Ghats block a lot of moisture from coming in that other parts of India get, and even Bangladesh and other places. So talk more about that when we get to climate. Okay, here's some bodies of water. So now you're going to go over to the bodies of water part on your chart. There's 3 big rivers here that we'll talk about: Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra rivers. First one is Indus. That's going to go in Pakistan. So put Indus in Pakistan. The Indus River is right here in Pakistan. It flows kind of close to India, right here, and it empties into the Arabian Sea. You just have to put Indus River down there. When you get into world history next year with Coach Broom, the Indus River Valley civilization is around the same time that the Mesopotamia, which we talked about right over here, Tigris and Euphrates, Indus River Valley was starting their civilizations over here. So really early civilizations lived around this river, and the Mesopotamia and the Nile and a couple in China. But these were where the first civilizations kind of started. So there's been people there for a while. Then you have the Ganges. The Ganges you're going to put in India. Now, most of these mountains, and I kind of skipped over this, most of these mountains, their sources come from the ice melting in the Himalayas. So that's why they're kind of all started here, started in the Himalayas, started in the Himalayas, started in the Himalayas. And so they get their start from that ice melting in the Himalayas. Okay, you got India, you're going to put the Ganges. It's a very sacred river, very sacred in the Hindu religion as well. It has very fertile soil coming from the mountains and going down into India and makes it very fertile there in the northern part of India. The Indo-Gangetic Plain is a huge alluvial plain, and what an alluvial plain is where flooding happens, and it creates a very fertile soil. It's in right there here in this region, circled right here, the Indo-Gangetic Plain. This is where the majority of the population of India lives, is inside this circle. And 1,000 people per square mile in some of these regions, or some inside the circle. So a lot of people are going to live where there's good flooding and fertile soil right here in this area. And then the last river here is the Bangladesh, and that's the Brahmaputra, and that's going through Bangladesh. It starts up here in Bhutan. You don't have to put it in Bhutan and Nepal. The majority, the river that's useful and people live around is right here in Bangladesh. And so they join up with the Ganges here, create a river delta here, one of the largest river deltas in the world, right here, and it's called the Bay of Bengal. I don't know why my arrow's off here, but it is. It's supposed to be pointing up to there. And then let's go over to natural resources, the last column here. This is very easy for you. I've just put it here because I want to have a whole page worth of the map so you can see the map. But here's where you'd put some of those. Okay, fertile soil is going to be in India and Bangladesh, where we just talked about where those river deltas are and the alluvial plains are. Fish and seafood go down here in the Maldives and Sri Lanka because they have a lot of coastline because they're islands. So fish and other seafood will be in Maldives and Sri Lanka. Then you have oil and natural gas in India and Pakistan. You can see here oil and natural gas in India and Pakistan, over here in India, but most of it over here kind of close to the Arabian Sea. Remember, that's where they find oil here, too, is right up here in the Persian Gulf, right up there. You can see it right up in there. So there's a lot of oil and gas around this Arabian Sea. So Pakistan is one of those. Then you have coal in India and Pakistan. Coal, lots of coal here, coal here. And if you can't really tell where Bangladesh ends, it's right here. There's a little white line going right through there. Then you got iron ore. India has a lot of iron ore. And, oh, sorry, wrong direction. Gemstones. Some of the world's the most gemstones. What's a gemstone? It's like these things, rubies and sapphire and whatever your birthstone is, probably. A lot of those come from India. These gemstones come from India. And then the last one here is timber. Timber is wood, forest. So Nepal and Bhutan, I know it doesn't show it on this map, but Nepal and Bhutan, that's basically their only resource is some of the forest because a lot of it is mountains and forests only grow up to certain elevations. We talked about that when we talked about South America, but they really only have timber as a one natural resource because the rest of it is just mountainous territory. Bangladesh has a lot of rainforest, and so does India has rainforest type tropical wet rainforest, and so they have timber that's coming from there too. And that's it. So that's your notes today. We'll go over section 2 on Wednesday, but make sure you just fill out that chart, turn it in, and do your vocab before then this week.